All right, everybody. So this is Christina Moore with Bella Giornata Events. I have known Christina for many years. She has done some incredible styled shoots, dreamy, beautiful, amazing pictures. So what happens a lot is when I connect with the venue in the beginning stages of their startup, I will get requests and have over the years had requests to do a styled shoot. What I do for them is very basic. It's for content, it's for necessity. It's to go out and make sure that the venue has some content to start promoting their business. What Christina does is entirely elevated from that necessity type of shoot that a lot of venues have to have in the beginning. Christina's shoots are art and just romance and incredible, intelligent design, the likes of which a lot of people really don't have and don't understand. I don't know how to explain all of the amazing things you do. So Christina, I'll just let you kind of start up and go from there.
Well, you made it sound a lot more glamorous than what I usually do, but usually we do get a lot of inquiries. I've been a planner for the last 10 years and we get a lot of inquiries from new venues that want to advertise, and they're like, I just need to throw a shoot together. And it really upsets me, because they're wasting money, they're wasting time. They don't know where to start with vendors or how much they should be responsible for or spending on said shoots. And they usually don't know what to do with them after they have all the content. So the venues I've worked with, we sit down and we paint a very clear picture, because I'm what's considered a business creative, where I am just as concerned about the business aspect. I look at it as an investment in your property, in your advertising budget, in your reputation, as much as I do a creative outlet for me to draw people to your venue. So a lot of times I will come to the venue first. We'll paint a picture of your ideal client. People do not take the time. They're just like, sign the contract, get the rental, let's go. But there are quite a few steps in between then. Your responsibility as a venue owner is to identify your ideal client. You're going to get surprises here and there, but you should have a really good finger on the pulse of who it is you need to reach. So you have to decide first, well, what's the purpose of the shoot? Am I doing this photo shoot because everyone told me I need to have one? Am I doing it because I see all of these beautiful images all over Instagram and Pinterest? Am I doing it because of whatever reason? And the only reason you should have is that you need content that speaks to your ideal client, that has no problem signing on your dotted line, giving you the money that you require for your venue, and kind of fits the bill. It becomes more problematic, actually. You get ideal clients that want to be there, that value your property. Let me go into, there's a big miscommunication about venues. People will often Google how much of the wedding budget do people spend on the venue. And if you go by Google, they're going to tell you 50% or so. And it's just not true. A lot of venues do book at 50% of the wedding budget, and it's not good business. You've been coffee.
Mama.
Tea. So it's actually a huge misconception, because you're spending 50% on your wedding venue. You've now locked them in, and now they have subpar florals, subpar photographer, subpar DJ, subpar catering. It's actually about 25 to 30% that they spend on a venue where they're properly budgeted for their wedding. That gets you quality vendors in there. It gets you quality vendors with quality photographs, quality connections that then turn into return business for your venue. So when you're doing a photo shoot, the first thing I say is, how much do you think you want to spend to build this vision? And when to rent. If your venue's $8,000 to $10,000, guess how much you should be spending on a shoot? $5,000 to $6,000, because that's what it's going to take to reach your ideal client and build that vision. It's an investment, and we know that, but you get it back tenfold and it's consistent images that you can use over and over again that reach your ideal client. Especially until you have one like other events, which do any events ever really live up to the ideal client experience? You could say, oh, they're gorgeous and they have a beautiful dress and the food's going to be amazing, but they don't care about flowers. So are you
Christina, can you tell us a little bit about some of the styled shoots that you have set up that have been published? And
this is a place in Baltimore, the Bell Tower, where obviously not everyone has a backdrop like this to use, right? So we really wanted to magnify it, and every other photo I'd seen of it, the table was on the floor in front of the clock, which is still beautiful, but does it give me the magnitude of how huge this is? And the fact that the couple can get up there with a simple ladder before everything gets started or later on in the evening. So now they get almost 100% of the weddings they have there, they get this shot in of the couples or just the bride in her gown or whatever else, but they had never once decorated it. And it just didn't make sense to me. It's magical. It reminded me of Peter Pan. So a lot of times I'll walk around a space and it tells me the story, either through the venue owner, the property itself, pieces they have there. So there's different ways you can maximize like what it is you're showing off.
Can you share a little bit about the flowers and how you even plant the flowers? Is something that's totally out of my wheelhouse. I wouldn't even know how many flowers you would need. How do you kind of plot that out in your mind, even just with the florals? And just so everyone knows, when you're doing a content style photo shoot, a lot of times you're never going to get any flowers. You're just trying to get a good photographer to take some pictures of the venue. Again, totally different than what Christina does. So one thing people don't understand is how costly flowers can be in the investment, but the impact that they make. And like you said, the type of bride that is going to purchase flowers is the type of bride that has a vision, and she's going for the vision rather than focused 100% on her budget.
But it's our job to show her that vision fits into her budget in your venue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like this was out at Presque Isle. You've been out there. And they obviously wanted to highlight the pond that they have out there. And a lot of times ceremony is next to the pond. So I literally stripped down the stairwell and the table afterward and reused it on the boat. It took me all of 20 minutes. We got the shots, got in and out. But I'm also very funny about the photographers that I choose to tell the story as well. So when I visit venues, I've already researched photographers in the area. I've already researched what you have, what the average prices are, all that good stuff, so that I know when I do these things, it can be recreated, because you'll get a lot of, I want that. I want what you have as your main photo on Facebook or wherever. So it's up to us to show them what they can do with your venue. It's one thing to say, I have a beautiful building and I have a beautiful space and here it's yours for just this price. That doesn't, not everyone's a creative. Not everyone can put and visualize their whole event in your space, nor do they have any idea what it costs them. So if you're taking your venue cost, putting it into an ideal budget to reach that ideal client, we know it can fit in that bubble.
So what would you say your estimate usually is on flowers for one of these types of shoots?
It's usually about 2,500 to 2,800. It's not bad. I mean, it's not bad because I do florals and I know how much they cost. To other people, like if you want to go with that one, just a little bit more. And I don't recommend it because you're not going to get that client. It is very rare. Those are like the Willy Wonka tickets of weddings. You know what I mean? And if you do, they've already got it. Now, a lot of people ask me, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's go back to what are you going to do with the content? So like this photo was done so that it could be used anywhere, everywhere, on flyers, postcards, you name it. Simple. They're beautiful. They were great people. There's even a cat in the background. I have no idea why. But it catches the essence of, it's a simple place with a simple barn. They didn't want to do a whole lot. They knew that they get about $4,500 a rental. And, you know, they were like, can you build the vision for a $20,000, $22,000 wedding? Sure. So it really depends. It's all over the place. No one fits into any one mold. The Waterford brings us in every winter to do shoots for them because they want couples to stay there. This one isn't even for a wedding. It's, we want them to stay at our hotel and have their book here. And look, we give them the igloo for the night and all that good stuff. And then we wanted to highlight that they also can go ice skating on the rooftop. So it's not just about the weddings. It's, we did these, but then we also segued into the local venue and we made them work together. We made them recommend one another. We made them forge a relationship so that the shoots combined paint two different visions, but you're sharing the same reason people are going to DC.
I love this shot. This is one of my favorites. And I know this isn't the topic that we're discussing today, but when you're looking at the content that you do have and you're going through your content library and you're looking over things, I just love when we see diversity, showcasing a variety of the types of guests that you have and that you service and the different families. I really do love that. I think it's a beautiful element, and I think it speaks volumes really to your audience.
Well, this one was for that reason. I had a venue, you know me about diversity, like it's absolutely something we don't see in this industry. We're starting to, it's finally moving in the right direction. I've been fighting for it for years, which is why I did that huge shoot in the African American History Museum, the Black Girl Magic shoot. Like there are so many things that we don't touch on or we think doesn't pertain to us when it's complete nonsense. It pertains to all of us. This was out at Walden Hall and she said to me, I keep getting blonde-haired, blue-eyed brides. How am I ever going to reach anyone else? I was like, invite everyone else. If you can't visualize yourself there, guess where you're not going to spend your money?
Oh, that's such a good point.
I can't visualize myself, right?
So when you went to Walden Hall, this is a good one to talk about a little bit because we have a lot of venues that kind of have some of those elements that Walden Hall has. So Walden Hall is, what would you say, a good hour from any major metro area, hour and a half? Mm-hmm. So they're well outside any major area. They're actually outside of any secondary major areas, and they are one of the most expensive. So can you talk a little bit about the logistic issues that Walden Hall has and some of the reasons that they would invest in a styled shoot like this?
Tons. They were B&B, but they're a 5-room B&B. So we have to have somewhere else for everyone to stay, right? And I will tell you, the nicest hotel in that town is a Best Western that I wouldn't sleep in unless I had to. Like, I don't stay out there, I drive. So we had to create a space where it's going to be okay that you don't have transportation. If your guests have to drive 45 minutes to get there and they're not going to complain about it. I even tell them consider the timelines and everything else, but it's one of those, once I got them there, just like Presque Isle's driveway was like 3 miles long. And there's that other one in Pennsylvania. I want to say their driveway is like 4 miles long, and bumpy and scary. And about halfway down the driveway, you're thinking, will I ever be seen again after this because I'm losing cell phone service? So you have to create a destination when they get there. You have to make them forget that they just went down this bumpy, terrible road to get there, right? You want them to get there and just go, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be. And it's our job to paint that picture for you. I think venue owners get caught up a lot. When I speak out at the United Conference, a lot of venue owners are like, well, I've got it. I know what my brides want. No, you don't. You know what your brides are telling you, because it's what they can afford and everything else. Like, you're leaving money on the table. Are some venue owners designers, florists? Sure, yeah, but it's very few. It's very few. So I can't help it, but I get a little irritated when they're like, well, if you would just design, and I'm like, oh, but you're not a designer though. I'm not a venue owner. We have to know our wheelhouse. You've invited me here for a reason, and now you're going to tell me to just use whatever you have there. It doesn't quite work out. So I tell everyone to take it seriously, look at it as an investment, take your advertising budget, include this in it if it's something that you want to do, and know what you're going to do with it. Where are you going to publish it? Where do you want to be seen? Where does your ideal market shop? How do people reach them? How do you advertise to them? Are you looking to get Martha Stewart weddings? That's not an easy one to get. And it has to be a real wedding when it's Martha Stewart. So do those things elevate your stance with Google? Yes. Your entire SEO changes as soon as you put that Martha Stewart badge on your website and on your social media. It changes things. I used to raise my prices based on when I was going to be published in Martha. For years, I was terrified to raise my prices. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, Martha's coming. I can do it now. And it was the right thing to do every time. So make the investment in your property, in yourself, in your vision, and cut out the legwork. Don't stress about it. You budget for the shoot based on what you think the ideal client will be spending, for sure. If you try to find free vendors all the time, will you find a couple? Sure. There's always people looking for exposure, and there's always people looking to build their portfolio and things like that. Do I recommend it with everything? No. I can't pay my bills on exposure. So be fair. You know, sometimes you can find a florist that you'll say, hey, if I cover the price of the flowers, you know, will you put in the rest? I did that in the beginning quite a few times, just to get content, but no, everyone has to be on the same page of what you expect from the shoot and where you expect to get published and what you expect it to look like and who you expect to reach with it.
How far out, Christina, do you start to plan a shoot, and what are some of the first steps? So your designing element, what do you use to design the theme or what you're going for? Once you've gone to the venue, you've toured the venue, you talked to the owner, you've talked about their budget for their ideal clientele, and you've done that, what are the steps you're taking afterwards to kind of design element, and how do you collaborate with that?
So like this one was a good example because Mary, you know Mary,
Yes.
she wanted fun. She has an alpaca farm. I was like, well, guess what? The story kind of wrote itself, right? She wanted fun. She was like, I want young, vibrant couples that are elegant, but not too stuffy. We have alpacas, like, let's make it fun. Farm Fresh was really big for her because she was involved with so many of the local food co-ops and but this ended up being a lot of fun, and it spoke directly to who we needed it to speak to because it included all the elements that, you know, she.
Oh, I love that picture.
I mean, you know, I love when I can use pomegranates and artichokes and fresh lettuce on a table. It's fun.
Is that one in the background eating, trying to nibble on the decor?
Yes, very much so. I had to keep shooing him away the whole day. They're friendly enough. They're super cute. How many of you are familiar with Too Bright Lights? Anyone use it? Let me see. So Too Bright Lights is where you go afterward, or your photographer goes, and they submit you for publication, right? So when you go in there, which I have no submissions right now, which is fine. There are sometimes my content falls around this too. If someone says to me, Christina, I don't care what my ideal bride is, can you work them into me being published because they want the exposure, they want the SEO, they want all that good stuff. This is where I come to, or I call some of the publishers because, you know, you get to know them after a while. And I say, what content do you have coming up? Well, you know, what are you looking for? What's the style? What's the couple? Where are we at? What's the setting? And then if I think of a venue, then I'm like, oh my gosh, like this beach bride calls for submissions. Then I'm going to call my people that are on the coast, or, you know, that have the beach close by, or they have beachside ceremonies or whatever. So on here, the publishers tell you what it is that they're looking for. Very specifically, actually. And it just keeps going for probably 85 pages. Styled summer wedding. Like, all of these things increase your chance of that investment for your shoot getting published and going further. So there's ways to do this. Like we're doing this one now. So it's all over the place. A lot of people always ask about same-sex couples and how to get them to the venue, how to let people know they're welcome there, all that good stuff. Shoot, like I can't find them for you otherwise. Again, they have to visualize themselves being welcomed almost into your home, right? Like these venues are an extension of your home as hard as you work on them. How do you choose the vendors if you're doing it yourself? Do some research. Like you have got to do research on every single one of them. Have a contract with them saying what it is they're bringing to said shoot, for what cost, for how long. Are you keeping it? Are you not keeping it? Like you have to be really specific. Are you going to include food? A lot of times I invite caterers in because I love food photographs because you're already lining up vendors for your weddings. You know, they're going to be serving good stuff that looks good, that keeps people happy. When people leave a wedding happy, they're going to tell 10 of their friends Monday at work while you're doing the wedding hangover bit, right? And you're finding out what everyone went through on the venue side. These people who attended the weddings are at work saying, oh my gosh, I went to the cutest place this weekend. They had this greenhouse. They had this, they had that. Did you see my Instagram? We're showing them pictures that they took while they were there. These people are doing the advertising for you. It's also based on what they eat and drink. So when I go to venues and they're like, I don't care, I let whoever come in, you know, I'm like, oh, wow. A, you're creating a mess for yourself. B, you're really limiting, you're leaving more money on the table. It's just that simple. You have to make sure you're going to get your money's worth out of this. It comes down to what you want to do with it. Like for our service, we do follow-up services where we're like, okay, hey, here's your calendar for the month. This is when you're going to post these things at this time of the day. Exactly. You know, and we'll show you ways to do it. But we need to know with the investment we've put back into you that it's going to be done properly and get you. I don't want to call 30 days later saying, Christina, I got nothing from that shoot that I paid you for. Well, did you follow the calendar that we gave you? Did you follow the content that needs to be put out there? The pictures aren't going to sell themselves. You know, you have to get them in front of people. So,
how many shoots would you recommend a new venue to do? And I mean, I know that Stevenson's Ridge is one type that really is on the ball, and I know she'll do them frequently with her, you know, with trusted professionals that she can depend on. But what would your advice be to other venue owners that are kind of starting to do that branding, that elevated branding, reaching that higher level quality couple?
I mean, like this was a good one out at Glasgow, right? Like this one reached, I don't know, a few million people in a matter of, I think it was like 48 days. Because we painted the picture of romance, right? That's what they wanted. They wanted a love story there all the time. She's got antiques. She's got some fun stuff, some cute little spots. And we just tried to maximize that. There's some not so pretty spots, but that's everywhere. Everywhere has like the highlight reel, right? And then you have places that you're like, oh, we can skip over there.
Can we talk about the dresses?
Yes, we can.
That's a huge issue that a lot of people have. So can you talk about that?
I mean, it took me years to make connections enough and get people. I mean, they're trusting me to walk. Like I walk out like this with 15 dresses in my hand, get on a plane with them, take them to other countries sometimes. You know what I mean? Like they know that I'm bringing them back the way I found them. And I have not brought all of them back the way I found them. However, I had to take responsibility for it and obviously take care of it.
So wedding dress companies, if you want a dress that you're just doing a basic, you're going to get whatever thing has already got makeup on it and, you know, isn't the nicest, but it's adequate. And then you throw it on your cousin's friend and that kind of thing. But for the style type of shoot, the dress that's going to be most likely published, and the dress is a huge feature, is something that's very on trend, something that everybody hasn't seen. What are some of the other elements?
Again, budget. So if I know a venue is $9,000 to $12,000, I know that bride is spending about $2,500 on a dress. I'm not going to bring a $14,000 dress, a $24,000 dress from Althea to that shoot. You mean I'm going to bring a Justin Alexander like this one? I'm going to bring a veil that's $400 to $500, not $2,000. You want, again, if you paint that vision, it has to be accurate. It can't be, I mean, his suit is from Men's Warehouse. You mean, it's a Vera Wang line. But all those things are considered, right down to hair and makeup. Like, I'm not going to bring in a $900 makeup artist for that budget wedding. We're going to make it about $150 to $180, so that A, they know who to book in your area. It's someone that you've made a new relationship with. B, we're keeping it true. It's not a lie that we're selling them. Like, yes, you can have this in your package. If your budget's $30,000 and you're at our venue, we can complete everything for you. So it's our job to help you paint that entire picture. And a lot of times when I meet with venue owners, they're like, I don't pay attention to any of that. Like, this is my wheelhouse.
Because there's so many detailed pieces, and that dress is a huge part of it. I think what a lot of people don't understand is most dress companies will not work with anybody anymore because they've had too many dresses ruined. The flip side of that is a dress company that is willing to work with you as like a one-time thing, and they give you the dress that isn't really, like I said, has makeup on it or isn't really an in-demand dress. It's been in 30 other styled shoots. So even the element of finding the right dress for your styled shoot takes a lot of research and a lot of information. It also takes a very trustworthy relationship with those wedding boutiques or the wedding design firms, because they will not work with anybody. They know that those dresses get ruined, and that's a huge problem for them. So a lot of times the relationship with the dress company is why us typical people aren't going to get a dress like that, but someone like Christina, who has a tried and true relationship and an inside relationship, knowing what is trending and what fits with what venue, that is one of the most arduous, awful, time-consuming tasks that never works out, that relationship with the wedding dress company. If you want an adequate, just, post in a group and have a bride that got married last spring and didn't get enough pictures, that's one thing. That's not what we're talking about here. Those are like the necessity types of things. And I understand, but this is an elevated meeting your brand goals type of a shoot. And so that relationship is where some of these shoots die, and why I see the most gorgeous dresses that Christina gets.
Well, this one was a great example. This was their engagement. And when Demario contacted me, he was like, Christina, let's go to Paris. I want to propose to her Jay-Z Beyonce style in front of Wing Victory. And I was like, ha ha ha. I was like, you want me to get you in the Louvre alone to propose in a $14,000 gown? Okay. Like, let's do it. Let's do it. And the fact that they let me take the dress on the plane, and he had 4 5-carat rings that I had to take with me because he wanted her to pick which one she wanted, right? So obviously he didn't buy all of those. I had to get them because I'm bonded to borrow, take out of the country, the customs through everything, bring them back safely. So I cried during this one, actually, not because he was proposing, because I was standing in the Louvre alone with these people and a photographer, right? It's not something that I often get to do. And their wedding was fantastic. Obviously, they had a good time, but we planned the whole week for them. And then the venue that they got married at, they used this content for at least a year. They used all of it. And like, look what our couples do. So it worked out for everyone. It was good. And I mean, there's so much you can do, but my number one question I ask people, and I'll go to other venues. If I'm in your area, I'm nosy. I like to see what's going on. I'll go other places and see, well, what are they doing and what do they have going on? My number one question for venues is, how are you setting yourself apart? And I usually tell them, do season and off season. Sometimes we knock them out at the same time. There have been so many venues where we'll start off with a spring summer shoot, then we go inside and I've got Christmas trees and all kinds of stuff inside. Walden Hall was a great example of that. And they raised their prices significantly because in the spring, guess what? They were already ready to start advertising for those winter weddings. If you're waiting till winter to do that shoot, you're not going to reap the benefits of it for another year. So we call it just dole shooting. There are times we make it a shoot around and it's 6 different setups all over the place. And I'm inviting photographers from all over your area, because then they're going to blast it out everywhere. We give them the calendar. They're doing the work for you. And you've got 8 different styles of photography going 8 different directions to their following, and you're flooding your SEO during that month. So,
and can we talk about the photographers for a second? I want to give everyone a chance to ask any questions, but we discussed the wedding dress. The photography is a huge piece too. There is 10 million photographers. Throw a rock and hit a photographer, but a bad photographer will take the value of your wedding venue down incredibly. And I cannot stress enough that, you know, it is wonderful to support local vendors and to show them love and all of that great stuff. But when it comes to your online image and your online representation and the type of clientele you're trying to reach, having adequate or a less than adequate photographer showcase all of the wrong spots in all of the wrong ways, even take a gorgeous venue and make it look terrible. So some of the things to look for with the photographers.
Absolutely fantastic. You're seeing what I'm seeing. Some of them are very technical, some are artistic, some are romantic, some are real life, some are over edited, some aren't edited at all. So you really want to make sure they're in the price range for your venue as well. Don't outprice them, don't underprice them. When you bring the underpricing in, guess what? That underpriced photographer is referring you to underpriced brides because it's their budget, right? So you have to find your ground, know where your budget is in the photography world. And I think that's the hardest part for venue owners, is figuring out, well, if they're renting for me, ideally, what is their catering budget? What is their dress budget? What are their flower budget? What's their photographer budget? Because those are the people you want networking for you, with you all the time. You want them recommending you. The people that are seeing their photos, you want to come in and tour. And it helps with your booking rate as well. When they can envision themselves there, you're selling it before you've even met these people. Your sale becomes a lot easier when they come out to do the tour. A lot easier. You're going to watch your rates go up tremendously for booking, and contract signed then, not we'll call you in a week and see how we feel about it. That's another huge benefit of shoots that I usually don't even delve into, but
I do want to give our venue owners a chance to ask a couple of questions. If anybody wants to unmute, I did get a question in the comments, Christina, if you could repeat what was the percentage of spend. So I think Elizabeth Slagle, I think you had that question.
Yeah, if you Google it, that's a whole nother hour in itself about the misinformation out there on what we find in real life versus whoever gathers these numbers and data for internet purposes. But they will tell you that nationwide, the average wedding is 29 to 31,000. Obviously, it varies with where you are and what you're doing and what your comps are. But they will tell you that 50% of the budget should be spent on venue. And it's just not true. You cannot make the rest of the wedding happen with quality people that you want representing your venue, and you want sharing things and referring back to you and working with for the other 50%, because you're fitting in dress, attire, food, bar, desserts, planner, flowers, miscellaneous, rentals. Come on. Like, it just doesn't work. And I've had enough weddings to know, like, every time I'm like, no, it is not 50%. This is what we're going to do. And it's actually 25 to 30% that they should be spending on their venue. So a lot of times venue owners don't ask the total budget. And then they complain later that they got crappy clients who trashed their yard and had crappy food and their pictures are terrible. And I'm like, well, you set yourself up for it. You didn't ask them what their total budget was. You just said, this is my price. And then they're supposed to figure out the rest. We know only 10% of people use a wedding planner. I'm a luxury item. I'm not a necessity. There's nothing I do they can't do. But I feel that a lot of times venues cut them off, or I find venues that leave a lot of money on the table. They're not pricing themselves properly. So 30%-ish on the wedding venue of total wedding budget is what should be spent.
I think my question was, like per rental, like if your rental for your venue is 10,000, what would you do on a percentage for a styled shoot?
Well, if it's 10,000, you're probably going to average a $40,000 to $50,000 wedding. So you'll be spending 5,000 to 6,000 on a shoot, which I personally think is fantastic. It's like, to me, it's a no-brainer, but I think it's because I've seen it so many times and worked so many times and had to figure out everything from beginning to end, that I think it's a smart investment. Again, it's going to come down to what you think it's worth for you and what you know you're capable of doing with it afterward. Are you disciplined enough to follow up with everything? Are you going to do the blogs? Are you going to do the social media blasts? Are you going to look into other vendors? Stuff like that. It doesn't stop when I leave. The work has to keep going. But the content you get is like invaluable. Dual shoots are more, obviously, because we're setting up multiple spaces. Dual shoots where you would do season and off season, if you're in a year-round venue, you're probably looking at 9,500 about.
Where do you get your models, Christina?
From your local area. We put out, well, I can't tell you everything I do, Didi.
They're very sexy and they have chemistry.
Not always. Not some.
Well, the ones that you have look like they do.
Well, we weren't real people, right? So we put out calls for engaged couples in the areas where we're going, through social media platforms and Facebook ads and stuff like that. The ladies can't wait to do it because they want pictures. The guys usually have to drive a little bit to get out there. They get to try and fun dresses, hair and makeup done, all that good stuff. And we usually start with them proposing and all that in the story build itself of why they came back to your venue to then be married. Or highlighting your town, like a place. Michelle and Nate were probably a good one. They got engaged in Paris too. Look at that shot. Come on. I mean, that's gorgeous. But their venue used this, I don't know how many times, because we painted this story of they went, and it's true, like we went to Paris for Valentine's Day so that he could propose, and they got married the following Valentine's Day. So it was like they found Paris so romantic. Our venue was the only place they could possibly have been married to match that romance that they found there. The story wrote itself. It was the easiest blogs ever. And sometimes I will tell you a big inside secret. If there's a couple that you just fall in love with and you're like, man, their budget's great, but maybe they're missing something in the floral department or whatever, and you're like, you love the florist work and you think it's something that could get published, like Martha Stewart has to be a real wedding. It can't be a photo shoot. So I tell people, invest in them. Give them $4,000 toward their flowers. Work with the florist directly. If it's a bride that does not fit your aesthetic and she's not your ideal, couple, don't put the money in it. Let's see. Oh, well, there's a sketch from Michelle's, like the initial sweetheart.
Oh, we didn't mention that. I don't think I'm supposed to mention this.
What?
That you do those drawings.
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, I do they're different for different things, but if that's actually a really good inside tip for you guys as venue owners. You should have someone come out and do a rendering of your venue, whatever your highlight spots are, in watercolor, and then present it as like a bonus item. Some people do it of the grounds, or things that are important to the couple. But if you have it like of the house, if there's a house on site, if you have it, this was a fun shoot over here for MGM. Get a rendering done, a watercolor rendering, so that you can then email it to the brides after they book and be like, welcome. This is something you can use on your invites. This was Michelle's.
All right, so we have a couple of questions. I want to just get them out there. So, Would you recommend that venues always have a planner facilitate the shoot?
No, it hurts me to say that because a lot of planners would be really mad at me. Again, there are, even, you know, in our area, I know that there are huge differences in the planners. Some planners are just literal logistics. I'm not picking up a thing. I will tell you what to do and I will tell you who you should have do what, right? Like they walk around with their iPad and I'm checking everything off. You need a either planner designer or a wedding designer. It's not often that people do both. You mean, like, I'm just a weirdo who's that nosy that I do the florals and decor and designs and planning. I only do the timelines and stuff because it's my means to decorate. It's not because I love doing the logistics. I mean, this is the cutest one of all time, right?
Aw. So someone asked, have you set up a group shoot with staging for many photographers? What does the planning look like?
Yeah, so that's a shoot around, and you're pulling people from all over your area. You're kind of putting out an open call for photographers, and you have to have a lot of content to do those.
Wait a minute, scroll back up. You missed the one, my favorite one. Scrolly, scroll, scroll. Little bit, that one right there. Those ones with SJP where she set up, these were engaged couples and she got them in a limo and took them out to go for a little shopping trip with Sarah Jessica Parker at SJP Shoes in the National Harbor. Yeah,
I take them up twice a year to meet Sarah. She is lovely and always, I don't know why I'm not finding pictures of Michelle's. So it's just something that I do to set me apart from other people. So I forged this relationship with them. They closed down the shop. The girls shop for shoes that have their personality. They're not crazy overpriced. And even if they are a little bit, it's something that they keep forever. Sarah puts them on their feet. She signs the bottom. They become worth more money. So there are ways that you can set yourself apart from other people. Just have to figure it out and ask people. That's all.
I love that so much. That I love so much.
It's fun. They go crazy. And she's like, I don't know why you're going crazy, but okay, great. But they do, they have a ball. And it's so fun to watch them find their personalities in their shoes. It's really.
Christina has represented a lot of venues. She is one of those pieces to the puzzle when you're trying to reach that elevated bride, when you're trying to elevate your brand and have, you know, like I said, maybe go from doing a really great job on your own to taking it to the next level with that clientele that you're really hoping to reach. And again, for anyone who has not been published, Christina does have information that she keeps proprietary. I don't blame her for that, but if you're really interested in kind of feeling that out a little bit more, I'll make sure her information is there. So I'm such a fan of yours. You know I am. I have loved watching Christina. She's just meticulous and she's an artist, and there are some things that you just can't create. I'm more of a numbers, I'm more of a layout and checklist person. I don't have design ability and artistic creative ability like Christina does, and I would never promote or market myself to do that because I think that it would always be a disaster. I think the problem is there are a lot of people that market and promote themselves to be creative designers, to be wedding planning designers. I can set up a shoot for you to get content all day, any day. If that's what a new venue needs, I can make sure that it is great and it works for some of the things you need, but it will never get you published. It is not that tight. It's a necessity styled shoot. This is a styled shoot to elevate your branding, to reach your desired audience, to set you aside, to take whatever beauty you have as your venue and amp it up times 100. And I think once you hit that level, you want it again and again, and you start to branch out all of that, and it really grows and evolves. And the next thing you know, you're doing like Stevenson's Ridge, where you're doing 5, 6, 8 shoots, and people are clamoring over themselves to get to your space and do shoots. And but there's a starting point for that, and it's not accidental success. It is very well planned.